I want to get up early at a reasonable hour tomorrow, right? And what I want to do is wrap up the updates to my Capybara avatar. At least wrap up the tech behind it. I still have to do a bunch of like Photoshop and HTML CSS work to make it perfect, but I can at least determine whether or not I have the English language phenome detection figured out. I will be able to have a much more interesting avatar without a webcam. The only issue is that like it's just, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, this is, I'm all doing this shit, like, seat of my pants, I have lots of time doing, like, programming stuff, but I don't have any experience with, like, language processing shit. I literally am just guessing, and it's turning out right. Keep going, I guess. But the funny thing is that this seems to be a problem nobody has attempted to solve, at least not in, like, for the application that I've got. I was expecting to be like, some manner of prepackaged solution. The best I could find was a program called Abject Audio Inputs or something like that. And, it's not, as far as I know, it's not open source, but I generally know what it tries to do. It tries to map, like, you can record, basically, here's like, the top few frequency peaks for your audio, right? It, like, picks the top few and maps those to, like, keyboard or joy, control, any gamepad input, I guess. Like, the general idea of, like, snapshotting out a repeatable sound, like a mouse sound, that concept exists, but two problems. One is that the quality of the detection didn't seem to be amazing. Two, it was more like, as far as I could tell, it was more CPU intensive than I wanted. I think it's a Unity app, I think, and that's way too much overhead for me, even though, like, I'm doing the shit in JavaScript, but I don't need the entirety of Unity loaded up. It's the browser window. And it doesn't seem to be, like, my understanding of it is it doesn't seem to be quick, and I need something that will run at least 15 frames a second, if not more than that. And I think right now, honestly, it's running at, like, the render rate. It's running at whatever render rate the browser wants, and whatever the sample rate is for the audio, which is probably not amazing. My guess is it's like 20, 30 FPS. It's not like, it's definitely not, just like the display, well, I don't know, that's a good point. So, when you modify HTML elements, I don't think they update, like, even if you update them rapidly, without canning animations through CSS or using HTML canvas, I don't think it will render at 60 FPS. Like, so if you're sitting there just modifying, like, element display, element style, height, whatever, for your frequency bars, that will not respond as quickly as your code is working. The response time for my system should be really good, like 16 milliseconds, which is way the fuck faster than I need. I only need like 100 millisecond or so response time, and it will look fine. 10 mouth shapes per second is totally fine, but I'll probably get more. Nobody has, as far as I can tell, nobody has this exact idea put together on paper. It's interesting to kind of be like a pioneer for this shit, but it also means there's no prior knowledge for me to work with. I'll have to double check. Somebody pointed me to a PDF at least explaining like a breakdown of phenomes for language, so maybe if I use some of the terms in there to search, maybe I'll find some better shit. Oh man, so I just started the stream, and then I go to check my personal email, and I see, update, water shut off to all building. It seemed like I had water very recently, but I think they're I think they're going to shut the water off for every building in my apartment complex. I'm glad I'm, like, showered up and all my stuff clean, I guess. That's a bit of a wind out of my sails. Interesting, problematic Christmas, I guess. I do have one thing, though. I have one thing to sort of, like, celebrate a small amount, at least. I did the work to get... I still have some shit I gotta do for this, because it's like, sometimes it, like, gets stuck on syllables. And I think it's because the phenomes are the same, and I had them shared too much. But for the most part, this is working pretty alright. This is not driven by a webcam at all. This is driven entirely by microphone and nothing else. So you see when I say, like, nothing else, it just the mouth is, like, stuck open because it doesn't know what to do. I only have 4 mouth shapes for the current version, so, well, 4 open mouth and then, like, two closed mouth. It's kind of funny though. Even if potentially my water shut off and all this other shit, right? At the very least, I managed to get the fucking Santa hat on this thing. I wasn't sure I'd be able to get all this working by the 25th. So now that I've got this updated avatar set up, and I can tweak it, I can tweak the values to be a lot better. It's like grouping phenomes into a couple mouth shapes. Not only can I get more mouth shapes commissioned, but I can make the detection better. Because it could be like, a few of them I think are mapping the wrong phenome to each mouth shape. I can make it better, for sure. But, so yeah, once I get reward support for this avatar, what I'll be able to do is make it to where you can change out the hats. Except for, like, when I'm doing all the seasonal shit, I guess. It should be really easy, because those come in as another notification, and I think I already had the tech to do that in my regular notifications, like my follow stuff. So I'm gonna make a copy of that and make it only catch rewards, I think. I mean, that portion of the Twitch API I usually isn't that bad to work with. I think it's just pub sub. If it isn't, I'll be upset because like that's more work. But I don't even have the hats commissioned yet, so it's fine. The one I put on top of this one already right now is just like me doing a really bad Photoshop, trying to copy Carson style for the avatar. But I'm not good at that shit. So the interesting thing about this avatar, even though I still have to make tweaks to make it like better, this is entirely driven off the microphone and nothing else. Anything that isn't already defined defaults to A, and A is gonna get stuck on A a lot. That's kind of the big open mouth one. But anytime I have like something that's not closer to an A, like an ooh, like any O, or E, it'll eventually get there. I do make tweaks though, because the sensitivity is work. It's difficult to get that right. Kind of wonder if YouTubing is easier in some languages than others. I think there's higher syllable contrast than maybe, but bear in mind, like VTubing in particular, VTubing will look at your will look at your face and animate the character to that. So like VTubing doesn't really have the same issues with separating out phenomes because it's looking at your face and just applying that to a skeleton basically. Like one way or another, it's doing that kind of animation. But I like the sad thing is I commissioned this stuff. I commissioned all the initial set of art that Carson did, and I commissioned that like 6 to 9 months ago, and I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't. It took me a while to try to figure out what's even the right method for handling this shit. I didn't even know what phenomes were until somebody linked me on Mastodon. I know what speech sounds are, I just didn't know there was a name for it. So I ended up like looking up a bunch of like papers and shit, as well as expanding what I know about microphone shit because, well, specifically processing audio data in JavaScript. Because this has to be JavaScript driven for how I'm doing this. Because what'll happen eventually, that's how I'm gonna make the overlays and shit work. All of the the extra hats and everything else. Also, regarding getting the mouth stuff working correctly on the avatar, I've been meaning to make some sort of visualization for it, and I just never got around to it. I have like the frequency graph, and I've got the volume meter. I need to visualize my internal data, like how close a match am I? What are the next few matches, and how close are they? And I haven't done that yet. What I should do is probably make a display like the top few matches or something, and or just everything, order them all and show where it thinks they all are, or a heat map or something. I don't know. I need to figure out what visualization is intelligible and then start tuning the phenomes based on that, or really just the matching data, because like that has some controls in it already, like how good of a match does it need per frequency slice. Like it is 128 separate chunks of the entire frequency range that I'm using. Another issue is like, okay, well, how many? Not only how well does it have to match per bar? What's the value of an empty bar, as well as how much do I want to favor vowels versus consonants? Or another one is like, okay, well, how much do I want to de-emphasize a noise profile, or And I think I could take that off, honestly. Another one is okay, so if you have a few perfect matches, what percentage of matches across the frequency range do you need to consider it a decent match? If you do, how well does that stack up against everything else?